Well, welcome. We're in the next section of Luke's Gospel. It's a great little story. Just after Jesus has been preaching the Sermon on the Plain, we're told in verse 1 that when he had finished saying all this to the people who were listening, he entered Capernaum. So we're in a new section of Luke's Gospel. I encourage you again, if you are using this to prepare to do a Bible study or talk, then stop right now and spend some time praying. Ask that God would help you to understand the meaning of this text, that he would increase your love for the people who will be learning from this text along with you, that he'll give you the wisdom that you need to apply this text to the people who you're teaching it to, and that God would help you to grasp and love the gospel more as you dig into this passage. Pray that this would cause you to confront your own unbeliefs and the unbeliefs of the people who you're going to be teaching. Really is a great passage, so pray that God help you to understand it and then read it and reread it and reread it. I'll quickly highlight some of the things that stood out for me as I did that work. In this section you've got the scene is set where we meet this ill centurion servant who's about to die, and the whole story revolves around them getting Jesus to come and heal the servant. And we see a really startling thing about the centurion, that he realizes that all Jesus needed to do was say the word. He saw in Jesus a man of great authority, and as the scene starts with the ill servant, it ends with the servant being found well at the end. So Jesus does an absolutely amazing miracle in this section. He doesn't even go to the centurion's house. All he does, we aren't even told in this passage that he speaks the word that the centurion asks him to. But obviously behind the scenes, Jesus has spoken this word of authority, and the sickness that was gripping the centurion's servant to the extent that he was about to die, Jesus says the word, and that servant is healed. So Jesus is displayed in this passage as a man of great authority. Now the surprise in this section is that we meet this centurion. The centurion is a Roman soldier, a man of great authority himself. He has 100 soldiers under him, and he says in this section that when he says go, somebody goes. When he says come, somebody comes. When he says do something, those under him do it. He is a man of great authority. But in this situation, he has no authority. He cannot say to his servant or to the sickness, be gone. The sickness does not listen. He doesn't have authority in this section. And we see obviously that he realizes that Jesus is somebody who does have authority. And I think a striking thing, this story flowing out of the Sermon on the Plain, back in chapter 6, verse 27, Jesus had said to those listening, love your enemies. Now for a Jew, this centurion is exhibit number 1. He's an enemy. He was somebody who is keeping their people under his authority. Now we are told in verse 5 that he is an enemy who loves the Jews. He's built them a synagogue. So he's a worthy enemy, at least in the eyes or in the esteem of the Jews who he sends to Jesus. But he realizes in this story something quite amazing, and I think this is one of the keys of this story. The Jews come to Jesus and say, "This man deserves. He is worthy to have you do this. He's the type of guy, Jesus, who you should come and heal his servant. He deserves it." The striking thing is that when he hears that Jesus is on his way, he sends some friends to say, "I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That's why I didn't even consider myself worthy to come to you." He realizes that he's not worthy. He doesn't deserve to have Jesus come and heal his servant. Now I think this section is broken up. The scene is set in verses 1 and 2. We find a solution. Jesus is in town, and Jesus can come and heal the servant. Then we get a great surprise in verse 6b through to verse 8, where this man of authority, this great man, says, "I'm not worthy." He realizes something about himself. He's not even worthy of Jesus' presence, to have Jesus come under his roof. But he does see in Jesus that Jesus is someone who has great authority, greater authority than he has. Jesus just needs to say the word, and his servant will be healed. And then when we get to the last few verses, we've got the scene, we've got the solution, we've got the surprise, and then I take it in verses 9 to 10, a great shock, as Jesus looks at this man and says something quite shocking. "I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel." This centurion, this enemy of God, becomes an example of one who has greater faith than anyone in Israel. "I have not found such great faith even in Israel." And I think that this story is just teaching us a few things. It's telling us that God, the way God works in the world, is that he works in an unexpected way. He doesn't work in the way that we would expect him here. We learn things about Jesus here, what he came into the world to do. We see Jesus' power over sickness. We've seen that already in Luke's Gospel. We see here that he is someone who loves those who are naturally his enemies. And this centurion sees something in Jesus. He is a man of great authority. And that's something that we'll see growing as we go through Luke's Gospel. Now, what does this passage, what difference should this truth all make to us today? Well, I think this passage reminds us of the attitude that is necessary for those who follow Jesus. If you want to know what great faith looks like, great faith is seen in somebody who comes to Jesus and says, "I do not deserve. I am not worthy." But then who sees in Jesus someone who has power, someone who has the authority, and somebody who is good. We're coming to Jesus and saying, "I'm not worthy, but Jesus, I see you are good. I see you are kind. I know you have the power. I know you have the authority." In this story, the centurion says, "Save my servant." But it's that same attitude that we ought to have. "Lord Jesus, please save me. I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this. But I know you're kind. I know you are powerful. Please, Lord, save me." And the great thing in this passage ends in verse 10. The men who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. This shows that Jesus is someone who loves to show mercy and kindness to those who are naturally his enemies. I think it's a wonderful passage for us to teach anybody, to show the attitude that is necessary for those who want to come to Jesus and who want to realize what it takes to belong to him. We are not worthy, but he is good, he is kind, he is loving, so we can come to him. So I trust that you'll have a great time digging further into this passage and go and teach it to others. Help people to see that the attitude that's in our world around us, so many say, well, look, I am worthy, I'm deserving, I'm a good guy. And if that's true of me, then God, you owe me. This passage is showing that attitude has no place for those who want to put their trust in Jesus. The right attitude is, Lord, I'm not worthy, but you are good, you are kind, please save me. So I hope you enjoy digging further into this passage and that God would work through you as you teach it to others. God bless.